Hello, my name is Marty and welcome to the SBL Guru podcast. This is the second part of a conversation we had with the ACCA SBL examining team at the ACCA conference. Now, at the ACCA conference, the examining team were asked a number of questions. What I've done is I've taken out the most important things from those answers. I've used my voice to ask the questions, but I've also given a bit of a debrief of what we can learn from the examiner's answer. If you're studying SBL, it's very useful to listen to the podcast and identify the lessons learned directly from the horse's mouth, directly from the examining team. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you. So the next question they asked about was anything in the area of the corporate governance part of the syllabus the exam team would like to emphasize.
Yeah, candidates can sometimes or often even recommend actions included in a governance code, such as set up committees. But if they're not relevant to the issues the task is addressing, then that's not what we want to see. So I suppose what we're stressing here is that candidates must be able to justify recommendations as solutions to issues raised, not just here's some governance, this is what we're going to do. Indeed, recently I heard of a number of candidates answering a question by suggesting the company should have committees when it already had them. But candidates can also gain marks for going a little bit beyond governance codes and being a bit more practical. So to recommend that a company recruit several new directors to enhance the variety of expertise on the board may be what the governance code says. But if students don't identify that the number of the directors they're suggesting are recruited would make board meetings difficult and unwieldy, then that's not necessarily the best solution. We want them to be practical as well. We don't just want to follow the code blindly. Finally, in that area, candidates should bear in mind any high-level issues that the organisation is facing and may need to address. For instance, if the organisation has a major problem with employees, maybe they've got problems with turnover, then it's important that the board talks about creating and going beyond the code. We talk about bringing in an HR director to support those employees. And if marketing and IT issues are considered important for the company, we would expect students to be practical, go beyond the code and say, this company should have separate marketing and IT directors rather than, say, having one person to do both. So don't use the code blindly. Be aware, be skeptical in your own answers to make sure it's practical. And if the code doesn't suggest it, but it would help with corporate governance or strategic control, then it would be a good suggestion to make.
A few important points here from the exam team. The first one is, I think students, sometimes they've got like this cut and paste answer. So whenever they see the word corporate governance, they kind of write down every possible suggestion about corporate governance they can think of. The important thing is to focus on whether what you're writing is relevant to answering the specific factors that were asked in the exam. Also there, you've got a possibility there of an extra mark. So if you are recommending new directors to come on the board, I think there's a possible extra mark you might get here by suggesting if you have too many directors on the board, it's going to slow down decision making. It may cause conflict with other board members. So you've got a possible extra mark there in the exam. And when you're looking at corporate governance questions, even if it's not in the code, if you're offering practical solutions, things that they need on the board, like a new director or splitting director roles, just say it, even though it's not specifically in the code. They're looking for sensible, practical, consultant-like solutions. So that's what you've got to answer the question in the exam, with sensible, practical solutions that will benefit the organisation and the governance structure, even though it's not specifically in the code. The next question focused on ACCA technical articles for SBL and whether or not they are relevant for the exam.
Well, we won't highlight an issue that's going to come up in the in an upcoming exam by producing a technical article. So it won't be a case of, oh, here's an article, there's going to be something set on it, but students and tutors need to be aware of what articles are available, because the articles will help both in understanding the models we're going to use and therefore applying them, and also in understanding where they shouldn't be used, and being aware of what's in the syllabus.
So there's an interesting point there. Just because something's been asked in a technical article doesn't mean it's going to come in the next exam. It might come in the future, but the technical articles are there for really clarification of the syllabus rather than being an indicator of what's coming in the next exam. The next question focused on what professional skills marks were not done well in the exam.
Skepticism is often not done terribly well, and I feel that this is often a product of students thinking, well, this is being, the information I'm given here is from the board. These are people who know what they're doing. And there's often a failure to actually be a little bit more questioning. So skepticism is not always terribly good. And commercial acumen can also be lacking. That point I made earlier about corporate governance, suggesting things that are unwieldy, it's a lack of commercial awareness and what will work and what should work within that area that's missing there.
I think the important point here is don't be afraid to question and challenge the senior leadership team in the company if you feel they're not doing the right thing, or if you feel that their comments, what they're saying is incorrect. So just because they're the senior leader does not mean that they cannot say things that are wrong or stupid. So communicate in a professional way. Be skeptical about what people are saying, even if they are on the board of directors. Be skeptical, challenge what people are saying, and justify why you're challenging it. For commercial awareness marks, very important, people are lacking commercial awareness. Link it to the situation and environment in the case. And to improve your commercial awareness skill, listen to all my podcast episodes, which are about real-life company issues. The next one was an interesting one where the team was asked, can you pass the SBL exam without strong technical knowledge? It seems to be like a rumor going around that you can just pass SBL based on common sense. Do you need the technical knowledge?
That's a very good question, actually. Unlikely, but having looked at it and tried it and seen other tests of this type done, say on getting non-accounting MBA students to sit an accounting exam, it would be close but no cigar. You might find the best students would score high 30s, low 40s, but they would not gain a pass. The technical knowledge has to be there. A lot of it, yes, is business acumen. A lot of it is understanding business. We can think about this as being like I don't want to insult anybody here that has an MBA, but it's almost like a mini case study MBA. And believe me, I do know what goes into the MBA. But it does feel like it's almost a mini assignment on an MBA. And you could get, as I say, high 30s, but you could not get over that hurdle to pass this exam without the technical knowledge, the technical grounding that students need to have for this.
Some good points here. I feel that the exam team is very clear. You do need to have the technical knowledge. You do need to know the models. And that's something that I keep stressing to my students. Learn the core models. You don't need in-depth knowledge, but you need definitely the high-level knowledge on the models. And this does counter some of the things I read on Reddit, on the internet. Oh, SBL is so easy. Just do 2 weeks work, watch a couple of videos, and you can pass. You do need strong technical knowledge to pass SBL. It's going to take some time to acquire that and to practice how to apply it in the exam. The next question was focusing on whether or not the SBL exam team would ask questions on a specific model. In the past, they've kind of indicated that they wouldn't. So this was addressed with the exam team.
Just to dispel a myth here, I sometimes get asked, why have you asked for a specific model in this question? You said in the syllabus you're not going to ask for specific models. We don't say we won't ask for a specific model. We say we very infrequently do that. However, if we ask for a specific model, and I know the model that a lot of people have picked up on recently, if we ask for a specific model, please be aware that if students use another model that covers that business area to answer their question, they will still gain marks. Or if students produce an answer that maybe touches on some of the headings for the model but gets it slightly wrong, we will still give them marks for the bits that work with that question. So we're never going to say we will never ask for a specific model. That's not quite what the syllabus says. But be aware, if we do and the students don't know it, but they can see some points that they feel will be valid in that area, they will get marks for picking those up.
So I think this answer is pretty good news. It came from my question, which I asked about, because they asked a specific question about the Baldrige model, and most students have kind of neglected that model or didn't learn it in detail. If you come across something that's based on a model and you cannot quite remember the model, just go back to your common sense business principles and try to answer it the best you can. If you leave it blank, you're going to get no marks. If you try to use your principles, you may get some marks in the exam, which can help you to get across the line and get a pass in the examination. So never leave anything blank. If you don't know the model, just try to answer it as best you can based on your business knowledge or based on other models which we've got on the SBL syllabus. The exam team would then ask what students could do to improve the amount of marks they got in terms of professional marks in the exam.
Professional marks, it's not something extra that students do, say at the bottom of a question. We did see recently an incident of a couple of people writing a little bit extra at the bottom and heading it up with the professional skill title and trying to address professional skills separately. It has to be within the answer. So the first thing students need to do is ask themselves, what am I being asked to do? If they're being asked to evaluate, we need to see a balanced answer. So a student who covers only negatives in great detail and has only a few little positives and very little on the other side hasn't produced a balanced answer. So that would not give them the full professional marks for evaluation, let's say. A student who has not used the right format, not used the right model, will not be able to score full marks. And it will very much depend on, what the format is and indeed what the skill is. But basically, to distill it down, they need to provide a full answer that fully covers the requirement in the way they have been asked to get those full marks. And it's not actually horrendously difficult to get them. It's just making sure you fully answer that requirement. So focus on the requirement first and make sure you're covering that, and that should cover your professional skills.
So good answer here from the exam team. What you must look for your professional skills mark is meeting all the requirements. So if there are 3 requirements, you must meet all 3 requirements to get the professional skills marks. They're looking for a depth of analysis to get the higher level professional skills marks. So the more analysis you put in, the higher your mark is going to be. Good point there on evaluation question. Don't just do all disadvantages. Maybe put in one advantage. If there's only one, put it in there to get a balanced answer, and you will get more marks on evaluation for doing a balanced answer. So when you see evaluation, just have a little note in your mind. Consider 2 sides of the answer. Main thing is answering the question as it is asked. What are the requirements? What is it asking for? There was then a focus on the pre-seen material, as many students have said that they hardly use the pre-seen material in the exam. So is it still relevant?
Yeah, it is not designed to give them the answers. The pre-seen is not designed to give you the answers. It is designed to introduce you to the industry so that the student doesn't have to spend quite as long reading and learning about the industry in the exam. However, it's like anything we do in life. You will build up, you will gather things in your mind from what you've read and what you've done that will help you then go forward. So I think a student who didn't read, let's imagine they go into the exam blind, thinking the pre-scene wasn't any use and they didn't read it, they would find that they didn't know what the business is and how it should be treated, and they would have to waste time going and reading the pre-scene in the exam. So it isn't designed to question spot. It isn't designed to give them the answers. It's designed to give them background information, possibly even some industry terminology that they need to know so that they can go into the exam feeling confident that they can move forward with what they've got.
So a good point here for students who spend hours and hours and hours analysing the pre-scene. It's kind of a waste of time. The pre-scene is really just for industry background, terminology. The questions in the exam will not really come from the pre-scene. You should not be looking at the pre-scene analysis on the day of the exam. Everything should be based on the post-scene analysis in the examination. So pre-scene should be in your mind. You should know what's in it, but the questions are going to come from the post-scene material, the exhibits you're given on the day of the exam. Well, I hope you found this podcast useful. If you did, please like and subscribe to the podcast, and please share it with other people who are doing the ACCA SBL examination. If you want to do one of my courses, you can find all my course details at www.sblguru.com. I'll put a link in the comments to this podcast. And please WhatsApp me or book a video meeting if you want to discuss any of my courses and which one works for you. All the links are in www.sblguru.com. Thanks very much for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe and to share it on your social media platforms. Thank you very much.